We are back at the 35th anniversary MRC Gala with the best baritone in politics, Sebastian Gorka. I have to ask you, before we talk about anything else, there was a few years ago where you were at the White House and you were talking to, you got into a confrontation with that guy from, used to be with Playboy.
Brian Karam, the Playboy.
And you said, and I quote, "Are you a little girl?" And literally, we laughed about that. We sit next to each other, this cameraman and I. We laughed about that for a good 2 weeks. So thank you very much.
It's something funny. Everybody loves that little event with Brian Karam, the now jobless, sad little drunk who insulted all of the president's guests in the Rose Garden and then invited me for a fight in front of the Secret Service. So people enjoyed my response to that sad little loser.
Well, what brings you here to the MRC Gala tonight?
We love this. We were very saddened when for a couple of years they were on hiatus. So, you know, this is like CPAC. It's just one of these events where if you're a patriot, if you love America, you come to meet good people and recharge your batteries. And our good friend Chris Plant is the MC. So we just can't wait to hear Chris Plant and a certain mystery guest who shall not be named, but may be known as the Great One as well.
Okay, all right, and I've been asking everybody this tonight, and I've been getting a pretty much consensus answer. Do you think with what we've been going through over the last couple of years or so, that conservatives, even independents, are more emboldened to speak up against what they're seeing or what they believe?
Yeah, I'm not going to give you good news necessarily, because I think as an immigrant to this country, one of the things that saddened me the most is witnessing the last 2 years just a rampant lack of courage in pushing back on little fascists like Fauci and kneeling at the altar of government lockdown. So for a nation built on rugged individualism and the pioneer spirit, I kind of think we've lost our way. But that will be, to a certain extent, counterbalanced by, I think, a lot of, maybe not independents, but people who are just generally apolitical, who are waking up. And I think in many cases, like the transgender agenda, the mutilation of children, are making people wake up and say, sorry, what are you doing to, you know, prepubescent girls? So I think we'll see. Look, I live in the Commonwealth in Virginia. Our precinct captain, who's just a complete trooper, shared with me before the election that after 5 years of doing this, she saw something she'd never seen before, which is hundreds, and of course then thousands of people volunteer to be part of the solution, a lot from the Asian community, saying, I have no political background, I don't know what I'm doing, but I've got a pulse, I'm breathing, can you use me? So that's the good news. A lot of people are waking up who weren't necessarily Republicans or even Democrats, you know, saying enough is enough, we need to take back America. So yeah, look, it's going to be a good midterm. President Trump is running. He will be back in the White House if we do our part, but we have to do our part.
And what do you think about like the work that the MRC does and organizations like the MRC, and what it means to the conservative movement and what it means going forward?
Well, we need about 1,000 MRCs. So I love the MRC. The fact is, for far too long, for decades, conservative funders, big donors, just didn't understand what Andrew Breitbart taught us. Everybody quotes, politics is downstream from culture, but do you actually stop to understand what that means? It means that by the time an issue you care about gets to this sinking cesspit here of DC, it doesn't matter what it is, Second Amendment, pro-life, by the time it gets to the political arena, it's been decided 10, 20, 30 years ago in the high schools, in the colleges, in the movies, in Hollywood. So we have to understand that the culture is where you win the debates and not buy full-page ads in newspapers. We have to get the cultural part of this seriously. So things like MRC and the cultural part of this fight, the media part of this fight has to be funded properly. So guys, if a couple of billionaires, if you're listening out there, get serious, please. We've got a republic to save.
Now, feeding off of that, real quick to close up, do you think someone like Tim Pool is correct when he says if something drastic doesn't change, we are headed towards a civil war or at least a national divorce?
Yeah, Tim Pool kind of walks the line. I think he's doing a little bit of civil war porn now and again with that stuff. So, yeah, I don't like that approach because of all the wars we've ever been involved in. The Civil War cost the greatest toll of human death in America, 600,000 Americans killed by Americans. So, look, I don't think the Civil War thing is helpful because there isn't one issue. I don't think it's even realistic because there's no singular issue that mobilizes 300 million people. Slavery was a singular issue where you had to choose, am I pro, am I anti? In America, it's everything from, you know, the green economy to the culture to schools to the First Amendment. There's such a fracturing that I don't think you'd have that ignition of a massive fracture the way we did with the Civil War. However, Poole is right that it's that old adage that we hear every 4 years, this is the most important election in your lifetime. Well, guess what? After stealing the election in 2020 and the 81 million mailed out ballots, this is the most serious election in your lifetime, whatever your age. And if you aren't part of the political solution, you're part of the problem. And I don't mean going to vote or making a donation to a candidate. You have to be active in politics. You have to be active in culture because guess what? There won't be a republic to save if you don't get involved.
Well, wrapping it up, tell us what you got going on for yourself these days.
A daily national radio show with Salem, America First, 3 to 6 Eastern every day across the nation, 3 million listeners, 300 stations. You can follow us on Spotify, all social media, except the fascists at YouTube. So Seb Gorka on Twitter, Seb Gorka on Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, Rumble.
You're not hard to find.
Yeah, I guess so. Weekly TV show on Newsmax on Sunday, the Gorka Reality Check. Working on a new TV show. Can't say a lot about it, but we were filming for the last 4 days.
Oh, that's
and
exciting.
then a new project, a new book coming out soon about what it means to be a man in a culture that thinks men are bad. So stay tuned, sebgorka.com, and the last book was The War for America's Soul.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Sebastian Gorka, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah. And don't be a little girl.
Never.